And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome. Amateur radio amplified on 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian, and my call sign is K0STH. Whether you're an experienced ham radio operator or just getting started, this podcast was created to mentor, entertain, and provide community for radio enthusiasts around the world. You're listening to episode number 391. Loose title: Lids, D-Bags, Alpha Hotels, and more. Something like that. I don't know. It's a working title. Tune in to the live recording every Sunday. I know we're on a different day, but we'll talk about that in a bit. 6 o'clock Central on Sundays. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it. If you've joined us here for the live recording, we appreciate you. We've got some that we've got already preset and ready to go. The fellows are here as well, too. Thank you guys for joining us on what is the day before a big football game. And we figure we'll rest the horses and we'll get in here early, that kind of thing. Steve, W7UDI, is here, and Scotty, KC3, BXN, both East and West Coast representation. You got me in the middle. Hello, fellas. What's going on with you guys?
Just another fun-filled day here in paradise.
Glad we were able to get our contract negotiations squared away from last week.
Oh, yeah, you heard about that. Let's talk about the amount of zeros that went into your contract and the hair follicle situation, the hang-up. Tell the people what the hang-up was.
That's part of the reason why the WJZ support van couldn't follow Uncle Paul down to Hamcation.
So we had a whole thing set up. I'll set it up. Scotty will give his truth, and I'll tell mine. So here we were. We had these big plans. I said, let's take the WJZ. WJZ is a television station in Baltimore. They had an old broadcast van. 100 Watts and a Wire purchased this van. It rests there at Scotty's house because he's in Maryland. It's got the big thing. What is it called? It goes up in the air. It's a mast, but it's kind of like a machine that sends up the thing, and it's kind of sexy.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work, but it's kind of sexy. It just stays up, which is a problem when you're going through the tolls. So anyway, we tried to put this thing together where he'd go down to Hamcation and some financial stuff, and he's like, what am I going to do with the mast? I'll hit something. The whole thing will tip over. I'm afraid of it. And so that's kind of how the starting point went. And then he said, I need some more money. Right away, I called the richest guy I know, which is Steve. Steve, give me $30. I need $30 to get Scotty through the tolls, the hotel, the whole thing. And Steve said, I don't think $30 is enough. I'm like, what do you mean? Isn't that enough? He's like, when's the last time you stayed in a hotel, idiot? So anyway, it caused a little rift between the team here. But anyway, Scotty's back. We got everybody back on board. But at last, we do not have correspondence in Florida for the big one. But anyway, welcome back, Scotty. I got you the $30, although I hear it's not enough.
I put it towards the new Motorola router that I needed to get back on the internet.
So all of that to say, Scotty was having some weird Wi-Fi issues last week, and that's all it really was. But I like our story better, Scotty.
No, it's much better.
Steve,
anytime the Jay-Z van gets involved, that's always a better story.
Yeah, it is a real thing.
It's a party.
If you find us on Discord, and you're welcome to find us there, we'll post the photograph of the WJZ mobile van that we have acquired. Problem is, it doesn't run. The mast won't come down. It's a bit of an eyesore, but it is kind of cool to us nonetheless. Steve, what's happening with you, a friend? You had one of those weeks, and how does working on a Saturday feel apart from a Sunday evening?
Actually, it's kind of different. It's weird, but it was a good week. Posted a couple of pictures being, in the office on Thursday, and so it was it was a pretty good day.
Beautiful.
Traveling around.
You do work out there in paradise. I got to say, you probably put a lot of miles on your vehicles out there, but boy, do you get to work around some beautiful landscapes. And he shares those on Discord. So join us over there. The link is in the description. If you're here, it's in the chat. You'll find it. and join us there. It's pretty quiet. We had a new person join us this week, and they were pleased with how the temperament is in the Discord. And I'm like, well, that's probably because it's not as many people as Facebook, where this person had sort of migrated over from, if you will. But anytime you get over 15,000 people in one place, you're going to have some D-bags, nitwits, alpha hotels.
It will get a little spicy at times.
And apparently it did, and we're not as spicy apparently on the Discord, so that's good. Although a shout out to Big Ben, who put some sort of, what do they call them, the GIF, whatever, of a huge bush. I'm like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
Like the exploding bush. Boof.
Like a 1976 bush at the Playboy Mansion was. I'm like, oh God, like. I was telling the guys, it does nothing really gets me queasy, but that one didn't sit well with me. I just thought, oh wow, this is kind of gross, y'all. Yeah, I don't yeah, it's like a bush in the box.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Could be a new SNL skit.
A bush in the box, pop, and then a huge bush flies out. And I'm like, what is he doing? Like, where does he hang that he just has this? Like, it's easy for him
North
to find
Virginia.
it and post it. Oh, we got some friends in Virginia. I just want to say personally, I really love Virginia, and particularly West Virginia and the mountains as I travel through. So, right to Steve. But yeah, that is actually where he is, and maybe he sits there quietly and looks up images of bush in the box.
That's what you do in Nova.
That's what you do. Guys, I want to talk to you about a serious thing, and this happened here, and part of what we do is reflect what's going on in life. We say it's the intersection of life and amateur radio, and today, doing a walk, and I heard yet again, we have had, and it's not us, it was in northern Canada. I don't know if you guys have heard about this one yet, but there's another, well, let's just say UFO flying over northern Canada, and it was shot down. This is different from the one yesterday, which was shot down over Alaska. Wow. And I posted on our Discord that, like, this is the testing time. I want to know what's going on here. I don't know what they were. We won't know until the Navy's scoop everything out. And I'm going to throw it to you in a second, Steve. I do know what I heard yesterday about the original Chinese balloon, which was dubbed the Chinese spy balloon. That one came down. We saw all the different array of solar. They found out that some of the parts on it, I don't know if you guys heard this, but I'm just relaying it back out, were in English. So some of the parts that were, it was not made in China completely, if you will. So there's a bit of a investigation going to see who in the Western world had supplied these parts. And so they scooped that out. Our Navy scooped that one out. I'm sure they're looking for the one in Alaska. And brand new today in northern NORAD actually found this one. And I believe they took that one down. They shot that one down too from today. Steve, in all your wisdom, what in the hell is happening right now?
I don't know.
Back to you. Thank you. Scotty, over to you.
It has been just absolutely crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. And the one over Alaska, that I haven't heard too much about it other than it was some kind of cylindrical shape. So I don't know. And then just before
I'll explain later.
And just before we got on tonight, I just saw a headline that there was one that was over Canada. So, but I did hear about that there was some USA parts that were in the first one that floated across, and I was like, damn, I was kind of hoping there would be some Boufangs in there or something like that, but yeah. I guess not.
No, it's a very strange. I did hear they had high-powered antennas, which perked me up. You know, we're talking about the first Chinese spy balloon. It was dubbed. That one had very powerful, they called it powerful antennas. And I was just like, oh, that's a curious thing for me. I wondered what they were. I don't know what kind of antennas would work to send and relay or at least receive back to wherever it came from. But it seems like, I wonder though, and part of me thinks, because I'm a bit skeptical, that these things are happening more than we know. And like, it seems to be like a little pocket we're in of like, these things happen and now you start hearing about them more and more, but maybe they're happening all the time. I don't know. Does it feel like it's brand new to you, or maybe does your gut say, and I'll come to you too, Scotty, I'm sorry, I should have got you on the first round, but is this something you think is happening all the time, or is this like a new place, a new place? Steve, go ahead.
I think it's happened before, and just now it's getting heightened awareness, and everyone's freaking out. And so it's now we're going to be sensitive about it. But what I'm kind of a little worried about is, and it kind of tying it into our hobby here, is all these students, STEM students, and all these all these APRS track balloons that high schools are launching, and now is that going to start causing a problem? Now, I did understand that the one that was in Alaska was floating around 40,000 feet, which is kind of the space where commercial airlines hang out and fly. So I could see that one being, taken out. Don't know anything about the Canadian one, but the other one, that was, up there pretty high. So, but I'd be interested is, on the technical part. I'm like, well, okay, what was this thing doing? These antennas and the solar arrays. I mean, it was a pretty big package that balloon was carrying. So that the technical part of it got me curious.
I think that's what we like to focus on here. If you're just joining 100 Watts in a Wire, you just found us. We don't get into the politics of like Washington. We like to focus on the things that keep us together or connect us together, which we're rooted in radio. So, we know there are lots of political strife going on through DC, but we're interested in the technology of what's on board, how they're using this, what was made, the antennas, bling, and they just perk my mind up. Scotty, what do you make of all this?
It's the technical side that just like with you guys, it kind of piques my interest. I didn't hear about the one today. I'm just now hearing that from you guys. And I've been pretty busy this week, so I haven't had a chance to dig into what they found with the recovery of the one that was shot down off the East Coast. But yeah, I'd be very curious as to what sort of tech they have in there, what they're up to. I saw somebody in the chat mention satellite relay. That makes a lot of sense. It's from the photos I've seen, it was pretty massive and it was pretty sophisticated for a weather balloon.
Right.
Looks like it had a few more than just a few 8-watt Baofangs in there, and a sidecar double bazooka, as Mark mentioned.
I was thinking they'd need to be sporting a one of those gummy loops.
Yes, nice. Look who's becoming quite the broadcaster with the transition here. We're interested in hearing your comments on this stuff. Go ahead and put them in the chat. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it. As we do transition to another thing we learned about, Scotty has been working on a gummy loop. And so we'll keep it with you, Scotty. What's going on with this antenna you've built?
Well, those of you guys on the Discord know that I have some antenna woes at my location due to some power lines and stuff. So I've been trying to find a solution to make things a little safer when I operate. And given my lack of any space to put anything like a vertical or any place to hang any kind of a dipole because of power lines, I've been messing around with a loop antenna, and I built a loop out of some half-inch heliacs and got it up and running on the little small little rooftop space that I have last night. And did a little test, some test transmissions on FT8, and I've dubbed it the Gummy Loop. And Gummy Loop version 1.0 is currently in the testing phases up on my little roof antenna farm.
A trivia question of why it might be called the Gummy Loop. I don't know if you guys remember, but we will do this on a new net when we give away the Nano Plus. I think we're at what is it, 3.0? Nano. And it's in the factory. It gives you 1 pixel, so you can make a favicon for your website with this thing. It weighs just about 8 pounds. We're going to give away 67 of those. And our next time trivia question will be, why would this antenna be known as the gummy loop? If you know that, drop the answer in the chat right now. We will give you 16 nano pluses HD 3.0. So how's she performing for you, Scotty?
I haven't had too much of a chance to mess with it, but I did I had tuned it up for 30 meters, which took me like 15 minutes. I didn't realize how my first time using a loop for transmitting. I had no idea. I heard they were narrow band, but I just had no idea how just narrow band they are. And so yeah, it took me forever. I have a DC gear worm motor, and a little controller that I got from eBay, some $10 cheap pulse width modulation sort of speed controller for it, and I have it rigged up with some 3D printer gears and a little timing belt, and to turn the air capacitor. And I'm rocking the little switch back and forth and trying to land on that. Has been dubbed on Discord the cooter hair of a bandwidth.
Now look, I can sense Steve. I don't know if you sense it either. I feel like he feels like that 15-minute time to tune it up and get on that, what he calls the cooter hair. I'll explain that one later. Thank you, Sherry, for bringing that up. I always say thank you for these wonderful HR notices. Steve, this is for real, though. This guy's a ham's ham. He built this mofo. Talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, this is great. And it's the mag loop that Scotty has built, and it is just fantastic. And I've seen a few other people going with the half-inch Heliax version. And one of the challenges, as Scotty has found, that these mag loops, they're great, but they have a really, really, really narrow bandwidth.
So narrow.
And so you need to get the slop out of your gears there.
Yeah, if I decide if I'm going to keep chasing the mag loop trail here, I'm going to need to get into the stepper motor situation.
Right.
This sloppy DC motor with some gears and a rubber belt is just not gonna drive me nuts.
You'll be all right.
Go from one end. Ding, ding, ding.
I am impressed.
Literally
everywhere.
Last night, I'm like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like going, oh man, come on.
But I think you learn about building it. Like you've done what more people cannot do. I've got a loop. I've tried to tune it. I understand where you are with the tuning. It takes a little bit of time no matter what you do. I mean, sure, your antenna may not be the front line for the Army as they're busting through the barricades and trying to get that signal out. 15 minutes is a little different. But a cooter hair you're talking about. Talking about a cooter hair here. But the fact that you built this is impressive to me, and I congratulate you on the effort.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to build. And
then like your first capacitor, you had flashover issues that you were using the first.
Big Ben, he gave me 2 air capacitors when I saw him at a Hamfest last summer, and finally got them, checked them out, and my hope was to be able to push a little bit of wattage through this loop, and I was doing some tests, and I had to build the thing in this narrow hallway, which is right outside of my shack door, because I have a little window to crawl through to get onto this little rooftop space. So the whole thing had to be flexible, had to be able to be disassembled, pushed through the window, and then reassembled on the rooftop. And so I was doing some tests, and I heard that I was driving I tuned it up to just a frequency somewhere on the 20 meter band, and just kept driving the watts, 5 watts, 10 watts, 15 watts. And then I got to that 35 watts, and I heard it start sparking in the hallway there. So I tried a different cap, and so far I've pushed it to 50 watts and no spark. So that's not too bad, I guess.
Good on you for trying, man. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
What you do. That's awesome.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, it's time. This week in history. This week in radio history. Give you all a different look. My messy desk. All right, let's start with February 9th, 1934. The FCC grants a license to WLW in Ohio for a 500 kilowatt high-power transmit for experiments. A little later, after Steve and I were running around on the playground playing the stickball, it's called the stickball. February 14th, 1946, the first public demonstration of the ENIAC, the ENIAC. You like that? The ENIAC computer at the University of Pennsylvania. The ENIAC, the electronic numerical. Jesus, I'm going to have to bring you back in here, Scotty. What the hell is this word? Numerical. The electronic numerical. Cut the music. Who puts a word in there in the acronym? No wonder it's an acronym.
Electronic numerical integrator and computer.
This is what I got my balls broken for last week. Somebody was like, at least Scotty knows how to say the damn words, hon. That was my mother. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate you. It was the first programmable general purpose electronic digital computer. In 1947, it was moved to the Army's Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. That's where they keep the Agent Orange. Scotty, have you ever had this conversation? Aberdeen Proving Ground. They've got the Agent Orange there, Steve. That's not good. And it was used continuously until 1955. Now, February 17th, 1947, the VOA begins broadcast into the Soviet Union. And in 1876, boy, I was wearing short pants back then. I did have those Gordos. They were way up high. They had not descended until late 1880. February 19th, 1876, Thomas Edison lived down the street from us, granted a patent for the phonograph. And there you have it. This week in radio history. All right. Thank you. Thank you for putting that together. But now we have to get it into... Damn it. I knew it. Just let me get the words out, Sherry. If you give me more time. I know that we've had some struggles in the past, but you're a little quick on that button.
Yeah, she is.
She's a little too quick on the board.
Yeah, she's been gone a while, and now she's back.
Yeah, now it's like retirement's approaching. I'm like, you got something to prove over there, Sherry. I don't dig it. Take it easy. What events are happening right now, Scotty? I couldn't believe we'd be heating up in February with a lot of events. What's up?
Oh, yeah. So we got a couple of AARL things going on next weekend. The International DX Contest CW edition is happening. All week this week, up through Monday through Fridays, 13th through 17th, is the AARL School Club Roundup. Some special event stations happening. There's a Super Bowl 57 special event station, Whiskey 7 Alpha Sierra Charlie in Phoenix, Arizona. They're operating from February 6th through the 14th. Green Valley Amateur Radio Club is having a Ladies Valentine's special event station on the 14th.
Oh, nice.
Call sign Whiskey Echo 7 Golf Victor. That's being held at the Titan Missile Museum. They're going to be using that cool discone antenna for that event.
Cool. That's big.
Yeah.
Come on, Scotty. I got enough. I wasn't giving a commentary on anybody's parts. Come on, man. She gets off soon, so if you could keep me out of there, it'd be great.
And of course, we have the whatever you want to call it happening on Bouvet Island. So that's
it's gonna.
You can see some more events and more info on the events channel on our Discord.
Oh, lordy.
Back to you, Christian.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Going to need that music. I would like to thank PowerFilm Solar and Gigaparts. Here's an easy way for you to help the show, and I'll explain it to you in a minute. PowerFilm Solar and Gigaparts, providing quality solar power solutions for your portable operating needs. To explore PowerFilm Solar's selection of quality products, visit gigaparts.com and search 100 watts, 100 watts, one sort of, not a word, but numbers with the word together. Do that. And you can help because all you do, go to the website, go to Gigaparts, in the search bar, do 100 watts. And they just want to see who engages from this show to that website. There's no, I mean, if you buy something wonderful, I'm sure they would love that too, but I think they want to really gauge the engagement here. Will you guys do that? Hear about it? Does it work? If it works and they get a little bit of love, maybe they'll stay with us through the summer. So, no pressure. Do what you want to do. We appreciate you. And if you find value in 100 Watts in a Wire, you can support the content and the community you enjoy by visiting buymeacoffee.com/100watts. It's as easy as buying us a cup of coffee. You could consider the benefits of a monthly contribution. Our dipole level is $1 an episode. I got to get to 30 new ones for Scotty. I hear that's low, but that's, it's kind of the going rate of 1976. Yeah, and it's cheaper than a real cup of coffee. Visit buymeacoffee.com/100watts today, and thank you. Our new supporters are Tom, K6IGY, Doug, N8TN, Matt, November 7, Rue, he's Romeo, Oscar, and Jim Patlanier. That's a nice name, but Jim, thank you, Jim, for joining up today. We'll get your call sign if you have one, and I appreciate you and your support. Scotty alluded to the fact that Bouvet, and I mentioned a couple weeks ago, and I don't think it was a very popular thing. I didn't get a lot of feedback or pushback or anything from it. But I was a little concerned that this thing is not going to go down the way they had planned. We talked about how contingency plans work in everything, right? They are in the most remote spot on Earth, or pretty damn close to it, the most remote island on the world. And they're struggling, guys. They're struggling with the weather. They're struggling with, getting things set up, keeping a base camp going. And it seems hard. Can you tell us there was an update that came in today, Steve. I don't know if you have it handy, but maybe you can paraphrase what's happening there today. And I can pull up their page and we can take a look at it too. What do you know so far about what's going on in Bouvet, Steve?
Well, they're struggling. It's been a tough one. So in many aspects, so they're running basically only a couple of stations. They have only one generator up at the operating setup or the camp. The one of the issues that the couple of issues they've run into, from what I gather and can figure out, is that they can't operate on the beach where they're landing. They're not even actually landing on the beach. They got a line that's tied off somewhere out on shore, and then there's a buoy that is maybe 15 meters offshore that the Zodiac boat ties up to, or they tie up to. Then the team members get in the water. They're wearing their survival suits, and then they got to kind of tread or make their way onto shore. Wow. So they got to do that just to get onto shore, just to get onto the beach. And then, I guess because of regulations or wherever, they have to scale. They have to go up about 800 feet up above the onto a plateau area where they're setting up camp, and hauling up generators and gasoline and supplies and everything else is, well, I guess it just turned out to be a bigger challenge and for them. And the weather hasn't been great, even though it's the summer in Bouvet and this is the time of year to go. It's been really tough for these guys. And then on top of it, now you have a new boat. So if you've ever been following DXpeditions for the last, say, 10 years or so, there has been a boat that has been commonly heard and transporting, these DXpeditioners out to the islands or wherever they were setting up, and that was the Braveheart. Well, the owner, I think his name is Jolly Roger, who owned that boat, retired. And so the boat, he sold off the boat, so the Braveheart is not available. So now you have a new boat, new crew, and you're setting up on the toughest island in the world right now. And these poor guys are struggling. They're doing the best they can. And then on top of it, we got this feces show that's going on in the background. And everyone's losing their minds. And it's, I figured out, okay, it's going to be our U.S. Brothers and sisters. No, it's a worldwide thing. And it's just compounding it. And unfortunately, it's going to be, they were hoping to do 200,000 contacts. And they had a pretty ambitious plan. We'll be lucky if they can do 20,000. And they're working on 2 stations right now instead of the 6 or 7 that they originally had planned. And so I feel for the guys. I know one of them. He's been a longtime friend who's on the island right now. And right now, I don't care about the contacts. I've heard them once so far on 15 meters, and it was at as we call ESP level. They were so low, I could hear voices, but our illustrious band cops and douchebags were drowning them out, so I couldn't hear them, and it was just a tough one. And I'm a little bummed. But I'm a little worried about the crew. I'd rather see them come back, and hey, it can be done another time, but it's really disappointing. But just disappointed in our brothers and sisters here on terra firma that they're being a-holes. It's just, I don't get it.
I was listening this morning on 160. I will preface this by 160 being called the Gentleman's Band. And I stumbled upon a conversation, 3 guys, maybe 4, and they're talking about Bouvet. And a couple of the comments I wrote down, and I was going to highlight them here as they were going and talking about, just like you talked, how we're augmenting, this thing's being augmented. You would figure it would be because the conditions could change at any moment. The weather's tough. Although it is summer, there's snow on the ground. There's friggin' penguins flying. Penguins are passing by like, what's up, dude? What y'all doing here? Kind of looking on their face. And they were talking about this intentional interference. And one of the quotes was, do they have nothing better to do? These are the people who are, kind of ruining this experience. And I feel, guys, like we're one of the stops, I think, new amateur radio operators or newer ham radio operators start to come around and, find their people and start to learn. And here we've got this huge event. Like we've been waiting years. If you've been in the game for a while, you've been waiting years. It's been postponed. They got to the door, had to turn around. Now this time they're there. And there's a little bit of action happening, but it's not quite what everyone thought. And it's hard enough. It's hard enough with these folks being on the island and getting there, for God's sake. So much money's wrapped up in this thing, I can't even imagine. The comments were, do they have nothing else to do, these people, right? And for me, I feel for the people. There's a sense of empathy. I think I'm hitting a certain age where, like, if that's all you've got to do, guy, I feel so bad for you. Like, I feel for you in your life, that's what you need to do. It's empathy, right? Sure, early on, I was like, I want to report you to the OOs. And back then it was like, FCC, I'm filing, and I did. Don't they have a life was another comment that stuck out. These guys were going round robin. And then it turned to, well, this is what happens when they dummy down the ham radio tests for licensing, right? Then we're going down this hole. I'm going to give it to you, Steve. I'm going to give it to you, Steve. They also criticized, and meanwhile, these same guys who I was with for a little while, the dumbing down of the ham radio thing is right. That's where we kind of jump off. And then they turn around, change the conversation. These same guys change the conversation to and have a racist commentary about the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I was like, and I wanted to key up. A younger version of me might have said, you guys, you just were talking about dumbing down ham radio For what? Meanwhile, you come off with this racist commentary about the quarterback who happens to be a person of color. God forbid. You have to think about that and talk about that. Anywho, they had another good point outside of that trash that they, at Bouvet, they were going to run on 14105 FT8, which turns out to be during a RIDI contest. And they were like, man, we really should probably get that information. That's not going to be good. So anyway, all of that discussion, and I think we can open it up now. And I've got the Zoom room open. The link is in the description. I asked if you join that, please mute, and maybe we can bring some Q&A into the situation. Steve, there was a lot there that I just said and unpacked, but some of it was good and that I agreed with. They went off the track, whatever. And Scotty will bring you in too. Steve, what comes to mind with all that?
Oh, I mean, they were on point with a couple of items, but when they started going into the dumbing down stuff, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But that's not. No, this is a societal problem. It's my wife works at a high school, and she has made comments that since we've kind of gotten out of the last couple of years and the lockdowns and everything that we've gone back, the kids are coming back into the school and they're having a hard time readjusting, socializing. And I think that's kind of fallen into the general population. We've been kind of isolated for a while. Now we're coming back in. And I think it's just kind of fell into here in society. We have some people that are, I don't know what they get their kicks out of by jamming all this and causing all these problems and getting their jollies off of it. What's there to gain? They don't have a life, and that's a pretty sad commentary. The other problem I personally have is with these band cops. People are, they get excited, they hear a DX station, they don't understand what this up is or what split is and how to operate split. And then you have these self-anointed people that come in here and start talking about, hey, he's operating split or he's listening up and everything. That's fine. But then they start throwing in their commentaries. Well, what kind of freaking idiot is that guy? He doesn't know this or that. And it's like, hey, you're now jamming the DX station. We can't hear them because have your monologue going off on what kind of operator someone is, and they don't understand. So it's like, why don't you take them up 5 or 10 kilohertz or down 5 or 10 kilohertz? Actually, take them down 5 or 10 kilohertz and educate them and take the extra step. Nope, we got to sit there and blast, and it just piles on. It's just one thing after another, and it just. And then these are the same D-bags that will complain about, well, we can get a chance to work these guys in the operation. And it's this, we're circling the bowl, and we're just going down the drain right now, and somehow we got to stop it. And it's unfortunate. It is really, really unfortunate, but I don't get it. I don't understand it. And it's disheartening. And, why can't Scotty make a contact and we'd be happy for him to work Bouvet and stuff like that? But no, some douchebag has to come and jam it so that Scotty doesn't have a chance to work it, and that's the frustrating part.
Scotty, what's going on FT8? Like, I don't do digital. I don't know. I follow along what you and the others post in our digital section of Discord, but I don't know dick about this stuff. You seem to think that something improper was even happening on the digital side. What are they doing?
Oh man, it's a mess going on with the FT8. At least as far as everyone knows what's going on. They're supposed to be working, and they say they're working in what they call Fox and Hound mode, which is a certain mode in FT8 that you can run if you're running. If you run in WSJTX software, it only allows the Fox, which would be them, to broadcast on or transmit on the even time slots, so the top of the minute and the 30 seconds, and you can only respond on the odds. And there's a ton of pirate stations on FT8 claiming to be Bouvet, A bunch of them are they're all transmitting on the odd time slots. People are getting pissed off, saying that they're doing it wrong down there on Bouvet Island. They don't know what the hell they're doing, because they're supposed to be transmitting on evens, but everybody's on odds. And then you have a bunch of different pirate stations. You got terrible spots going on all the DX clusters, and there's they keep saying the official statement from the team down there is that we were running WSJTX Fox and Hound. And anybody else is they're pirates, they're imposters, and then people are just don't believe it. They're like, well, no, they can't be. I know that for a fact that they're transmitting on the wrong time slot. They don't know what they're doing down there with their system. Their computers are off by 15 seconds. Blah 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 blah. And everyone's all pissed off because they're not getting their logs uploaded daily and all this stuff. It's like, come on, what the hell is going on?
Like, are we such a society now?
Another thing, yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that the logs aren't getting uploaded in a timely fashion. But then the other complaints have been, well, we're getting pictures and videos and stuff like that, but that's from the boat. Guys are doing the uploading from the boat, not from the island. So they got to get the data up to the boat. But aside from that, the other thing I've been hearing, Scotty, was what is this? This other software that allows you to kind of do the odds and even.
The multi-stream MSDX, I think it's called. You can do FT8 with this multi-stream software, and that allows you to kind of operate as Fox and Hound, but it allows you to transmit in either the even or the odd time slots, and then people are all up in arms over that. Well, they're using that. They can't be using WSJTX because of this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of disbelief, a lot of finger pointing. And it's like, guys, they're on a friggin' little rock with no internet access on the camp itself, and everyone's acting like that. They should have rolled in there with their Airstream trailer and got their 60-foot towers up and their
and
multi-kilowatt generators, and it's like such like a disconnect about what they're doing and what the conditions are like. And even to get on the island, everyone's just like, oh, they totally underplanned and blah 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 blah. It's like,
so when did these guys think that this DXpedition owes them anything? The fact that they go there and we know about it is more than they need to give us to start with. Mm-hmm. The fact that there are photographs coming out of this remote island. You're lucky, man. Imagine living in 1945 and being on the radio and somebody somewhere, and you don't have the internet. You actually have to dial, and you don't have a scope to show you where the frequencies are. You got to chase, find. You may know about things happening because you read it in a magazine. You're not getting it instantaneously. So as much as I love technology, I think we are so dependent on the fact of technology, and then we can't stand the fact that we're not getting the shit we need
instantaneously.
Like, who told you they owe you anything? They don't owe you anything. They don't need to tell you where they're operating. They spent their money to go there. And like, I'm sure it looked like, I know y'all can't see me, or I'm like rocking the boat. I'm sure it sucked riding over there. Imagine paying that much money to ride to this place for hours, feeling like you're upside down. And then finally getting there, and the douchebags back home can't get enough. You're not doing enough for them. So when we go and do our DXpedition, wherever it is, Gummy Island, I think that's where we're working on something special for you guys. We're not telling you anything. No. We're not going to tell you. You're going to have to find us, and if you get a picture, good. Here's my Gordo.
The gummy loop at 5 watts, and so that's all you get.
That's all you're getting.
I don't know if it's a mixture of technology, this instantaneous need, but these folks, and I know they're not listening to us because I remember talking about people who do QRM years and years ago on this podcast. Shouldn't mention it. And I don't talk to QRMers on the air. I really don't. That is not great form. But here, it's our place, right? It's our hole in the wall. And they're not listening to us. They're not listening to us. They don't owe us anything. They've paid their money to be together with their team, to do it their way. and what you get is what you get. I can't say it any clearer than that. Steve, you're up.
Yeah, and they're doing the best they can. I mean, they're it's like, people, give them a break. They are fighting the elements. They are just trying to get something going. They're going to be more disappointed than, when this is all said and done, than everybody else here. And they're going to be coming back, and they're going to come back thinking they were a failure. No, they weren't. They succeeded. They got on the island. The last crew couldn't get on the island, but I mean, stuff happens, and we need to celebrate that they got there. They did the best they can with what they got. And is it perfect? No. The plans were great, and just stuff happens.
Dude, they've made over 9,000 QSOs. They've made 9,000 contacts. What, on 15 meters in FT8? Like, that's a
Basically,
win.
they're
if
operating
you go to
from
a park and it's a beautiful sunny day, just give us 10.
They've been operating on 30 meters. They've been on, and basically 17 meters on FT8. And and that's been about it. They're doing CW and FT8, and then
watts.
we got with a 100-watt radio with basically a wire antenna or a vertical, and they're dealing with 40, 60 mile an hour winds that are, and then the weather's just not favorable. And then I think yesterday they ran out of fuel because they got to float. Think about what I said earlier. They float in the water to get to shore, and they got to do the same thing with everything else. All their supplies, they have to kind of float it from the Zodiac onto shore, and then they got to haul it up this 1,800 foot or 800 foot mountain or whatever it is to get it there. I mean, it's just, it's not a walk in the park. It's not when you just pull up and go, I'm going to do a photo operation.
Yeah, I'm going to just get 10 contacts, and it's official, baby, and I'm leaving here.
And
like,
that's the way people are acting. Like, it's like I'm going to
9,000 contacts
to operate a POTA, out of the trunk of my car.
I might be inclined to go, Scotty, Steve, let's get the hell out of here. 9,000 QSOs. Let's go. It's cold, right? Let's get out of here. Like,
I can't believe they didn't give me my cheddar biscuits at Red Lobster.
I need that broccoli and cheddar soup. Boy, that's going to be good. Anyway, so maybe we'll do a little something special today. We could run a little overtime because we don't have the net tonight. You're welcome to join us in Zoom. Give your commentary if you'd like. You've got something to say, I'll pick you up in the Zoom room. The link is in the description. And we'll see if there's any other commentary. You can post it in the chat as well. With any questions and comments, we'll try to pick them up here for you on a Saturday, a rare Saturday edition of 100 Watts in a Wire. There are some ham fests going around the way. Scotty's here at the breakdown to give it to us. Hey.
So a few ham fests going on. Let's see, I picked out a couple from the list to plug here. We have the Lawrence County Amateur Radio Club Winterfest, and it's also a ARRL Arkansas State Convention. That's in Hoxie, Arkansas. On February 18th, Page Valley Amateur Radio Club having their mini ham fest in Elkton, Virginia. February 19th, Rocky Mountain Ham Radio is having their Swap Fest in Brighton, Colorado. And there's a list of a bunch more of ham fests happening on the events channel on our Discord server.
Thank you, Scotty.
That's what's up.
If you'd like to learn more about 100 Watts in a Wire in our community, visit 100wattsinawire.com. You can check out the podcast archive, register for a 100 Watt ID. We've got over 5,000. I think we're closing in on 6,000 of those. Get yourself a sweatshirt if you like. I think Steve's wearing a sweatshirt today. It's very sexy. You get a sticker, a mug. He's got all that stuff. And all the links to our social media.
There we go.
There you go, 100wattsinawire.com. And if you're looking for a power solution, check out BioNO Power, offering the best lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. BioEnno Power.com. Say that again, bioennopower.com, bioennopower.com. Yeah, all right, break that down, do a little business there. We got lots of questions. I don't know if people have dropped any in there or not. We were ranting a little bit, but thank you for indulging us on that. We appreciate you.
Dennis Monty said, "Do you think some of the issues started when non-licensees were allowed to buy ham equipment?" No, I don't. It's old-time licensed hams that are probably the majority of the problems, and they're grumpy old coots, and I don't know what it is, why they are being grumpy and curmudgeony, but I don't believe it's the non-licensed person. If there is, maybe just a few, but or it's the dumbing down of the hobby. No, I don't believe in that. It's guys in my era that have been licensed for many years that I think are a big chunk of the problems, and they think they're above it because they did the code. They got code when they did, when they got their license, and they think they're better than the rest of us. So, no, sorry, I don't believe in that, Dennis. I think it's not them.
All right, we do have some folks filtering in on the Zoom session. If you guys come in, please stay muted, but raise your hand. Use the little emoji. It's in the reactions file. If you want to make a comment or ask a question, we can do that as we go. And we do have some questions queued up, but, a little bit of a hot topic, I imagine, with this whole idea of Bouvet. And I think you got our position on that. Let's see. We have a couple folks still coming in. I'm going to let everybody in. Bring your questions. Come on in. It's all good. Stay on mute. We'll bring you guys in. Dennis, you were in first, KD9ACM. If you have a question or comment, go ahead and unmute, and we'll wait for you here with that. I don't think we've said anything that is too far out of reach. I don't mean to sit up here and stump. But, 9,000 QSOs is pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's see. Who wants to come in from the chat? From the Zoom. Dennis, you want to unmute and say hello? You're welcome to join us. Come on in, Dennis, if you'd like. Say hello. Dave, you're up next. Stand by.
Hi there. Well, I'm really enjoying your podcast and your YouTube videos.
Thank you, sir.
Just passed my extra license today, so ready to do a little more exploring.
Nice.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Great conversation tonight. Thanks for everything you guys are doing.
What do you think about Bouvet? Are you following it at all? I know it's hard to keep up with all of the updates. They've got a good Facebook group, and they try to update it. Any thoughts?
I have to give these guys an awful lot of credit. Although it's difficult enough, it's real easy to do Parks on the Air or Summit on the Air, where you can sit in your car with the heater on, like you said, and then you broadcast from your trunk and basically get 10 contacts and call it a day. These guys are really putting it out there. They've made some major investments. They're risking their lives, and they're doing it for the ham community. And I think it's really a shame that there's this minority in the ham community that are just making this a miserable experience for everybody involved and spoiling the experience that they hope they could have.
Did you?
I'm not following Bouvet because I'm not heavily into the. I'm still studying my CW, and I'm not into any of the digital modes. But I give these guys an awful lot of credit.
Well, thank you for that, Dennis. And we talked about it last week about the age of these folks. I think Steve brought it up, which he said that these guys aren't spring chickens, and you mentioned that they're putting their life on the line, and they really are. They're, how far away from a hospital these guys are right now, and if you're not, a younger person, that's got to be a serious consideration. And we talked about the medicine. What did you take? Did you take enough? Are you taking it right? You eating enough? What's going on? How's your diet? These restrictions. An open invitation to anybody on that Bouvet team, and your friend included, Steve, if we can get somebody on. And I think we will eventually once they get back home, and we'll talk about these sorts of things because, we hate to see somebody go that far and aspect of our community feel like they're owed something more than what they're giving. It's crazy, but
it's absurd.
Thank you, Dennis. You're welcome to hang out with us. We appreciate you. Dave in Colorado, whenever you're ready, we'll take your call here on the Zoom as well. seeing any action in the chat there, Scotty? Anybody dropping any questions? Well, now we've gone off the path of questions, traditional
Yeah,
questions of ham radio. Now we're into the opinions, but Dave may not have a camera. So Michael, we'll take you as well if you're ready to come on in, Michael.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey.
How am I sounding there?
You sounded pretty good. You could come up a tick, but we've got you.
Okay.
You're all right.
Well, this is these lovely gaming headphones. You gotta
No,
make
you're fine.
adjustments.
You're good. No, you're perfect. That's really good right there.
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch back on the balloons. I was making some comments in the chat, and it's amazing that they can't see something the size of 3 school buses, not just the balloon, but what was hanging underneath it.
Yeah, I agree. I love the construction of it. I wish they could show us more of that. That solar array was just gorgeous. When they zoomed in and the folks were looking, I was like, wow, that's really impressive. And then when I think me and Steve, Scotty was geeking out a little bit, but he was in a contract negotiation. You heard about that up in the front, but so we didn't bring him in. But we talked about all the tech. I mean, imagine the tech that you're willing to put together and pay for and have it blasted into the ocean. It's really nutty. And then I read that they had powerful, I'm doing the air quotes here for our listeners, powerful antennas. I don't know what that means, but it's a fascinating bit that you would spend that much money to know that it probably, you're going to get what you get. And once it's done, it goes down into the water. But yeah, man, 3 buses. And I think my initial response to that was like, I can't believe it made it. And actually, every state it passed over, I got a little pissed off. I got to be honest with you. I understood, but, some people were saying you bring it down over where Steve's house is, you're going to maybe hurt a cow. But you might hurt a cow or something, but,
Yeah, I bet, the powerful antennas. I mean, we've done, as amateur radio operators, done a ton of Aries work and Cerex work when Space Shuttle was still up. And I remember when I first became a ham in 92. In 1993, I was at the Schenectady Museum Amateur Radio Club. They had the Kansas City tracker and the Yaesu antenna, and they were coming in just absolutely blowing the front end off the radio. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I had an ICOM 2SAT, turned it on, put the frequency on, and they were loud. And I was like, oh my God. So I climbed up on the roof and I made a contact with the shuttle. So 5 watts will get you a lot. So they don't have to have powerful antennas. They might be running just a simple SDR radio with a Raspberry Pi onto it, and they're sitting there listening to specific things, and then it's rebroadcasting back up to a satellite. I mean, it's not that amazing technology, at least not to us.
Steve, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it could be exactly. It doesn't take much to get to the satellite. The other issue is, where was these antennas pointing? Were the antennas pointing up to make contact with satellite, or was these antennas pointing down and they were doing some kind of radar or something, or they were just listening for weak signals, trying to decode whatever, and then relaying? I know. I'll venture to guess that the military has probably, they did some pretty close flybys of that balloon with a U-2, because a U-2 aircraft up at, because this thing was floating around at around 60,000 feet. So I would imagine they had a few aircraft up there loitering around with it, taking pictures and this and that, and then it's just all the speculation that kind of comes down. I would love to know what it was, just for the tech, like the rest of us, and then go from there. But it was quite impressive, and I would think there was something going on to have that huge of a solar array hanging down below that balloon, and that and there's a lot of weight there with the array and everything else to have a balloon that big. We've had, high school kids throw up balloons with a 1 watt APRS transmitter, circumvent the globe, and it was, maybe 10% of the size of that balloon, and it was, and we could track it. I mean, there was one that they launched in the Midwest, and I tracked it. I think it circumvented the globe 2 or 3 times before it finally burst and came down. But yeah, this is nuts.
Let me ask you guys a quick question. Number one, this is coming up on our 1 hour time thing. We're not limited by anything. We usually do a 1 hour show because we have a Sunday evening net. Do we want to keep it open and go a little bit while longer? We've got more questions. Sure. We can open up the Zoom room. Anybody can come. If Scotty will drop the Zoom room link, more folks could come in. I didn't get to Dave. I think he's working on some tech in there as well, but appreciate these questions coming in. You're welcome. I'll bring you into the Zoom. This is really cool. It reminds me of broadcast radio. And some great comments from Dennis I'd like to get to. He's putting in the Zoom as well. So should we continue? Should we move on down the line? Are we good, or should we pack it in? You guys, what do you guys want to do? Scotty's the one that's $30.
Let's keep rolling.
Oh, look at Mr. Moneybags. He's spending Steve's money like it's going out of style. All right, let's keep rolling.
After an hour, he goes into overtime.
I'm going to bring, we'll bring Dennis back in because he had a couple of good comments. Dennis, if you want to come back in, you mentioned something about the intelligence that they gather was probably worth their while in terms of the money. You want to comment further on that, Dennis? Dennis is KD9 ACM.
Sure. Originally, they were very weak in bringing out any information about this balloon when it was first being spotted by civilians. And, what we later came to find that this just wasn't a balloon floating randomly, that they were actually controlling. They were able to navigate this balloon. It did not randomly just happen to fly over many of our missile defense sites. It was intentional. And, it's pretty obvious that what they were doing was collecting data on, what our defense systems look like, how they were manned, what kind of equipment we've got there. And, for the Chinese who believe that they are the ultimate race and want to ultimately control the world, that's all valuable military data for them to collect. And, now we've heard information that there were just 2 more craft that were shot down, one over Alaska, and Trudeau just thanked the U.S. for shooting one down over Canada. This is a pretty focused operation on their part, and they're not giving up very easily.
Well, to be fair, we don't know the other 2, with the one from yesterday in Alaska and Northern. We probably will find out soon enough who sent these things up and if they were balloons at all. I'm having a good time calling them UFOs, guys, because hey, we don't know what it was, right, in Alaska. But
they are.
They are unidentified at this point. And, again, we don't like to get into the politics of these things, but we know that we're a superpower. We're the number 1 nation in the world. And everybody's watching and everybody wants to know what we're doing. And I do believe, I'll say this much, is that they understand that there are things that divide us as a people here. And they're paying attention to the things that separate us. And on this little corner of the world, our intention is we focus on the things that root us. And it's this little group right here it's radio. So for the people that are here with us, we try to stay connected to that for sure. And the technology that we're all geeking out on the technology. We all know everybody's watching us, wants to know what we do. But if I could just change one thing, it would be like we wouldn't. It's an ideal thing. This is where I'm going to get called a hippie, and now they'll send me out there to talk to Dave in Colorado and gummies and all this tree hugging stuff. Ideally, we wouldn't get mad at each other for thinking something different. That we'd all be able to go, that's cool, man. I understand what you're saying. It's that we got to punch each other in the face for thinking differently. And I think the rest of the world looks at us like it's any day, and who was the great president? I can't remember, but a country divided and, divided we fall, all this sort of stuff is a thing.
Yeah, house divided cannot stand. Lincoln.
Right. There you go. So I kind of feel like they watch us for those points. And Steve, jump in and stop me before I go too far. And Dennis, hang tight here. We'll see if I can get that old hippie in Colorado who likes to ski and offer us tree hugging stuff. Dave pulled up, but Steve, any commentary on these things that we're talking about? And other folks can join us here on Zoom as well. The link is in the description. We're live.
Oh yeah, it's been talked about, in the chat that they get the chance to loiter, and I mean it's so low tech. Because people have talked about, they got satellites. They don't need to run balloons over. Well, a satellite, you got maybe a 15-minute pass at best. It's to look at a base or a missile silo or whatever. Look what they just did. They just brought a balloon, and I did hear about the part that it was a steerable craft, and but it was kind of like, well, is it true? Is it not? You kind of hear the rumors, but it makes sense. I mean, just the trajectory that it took. It was like, normally a balloon's going to be propelled by the jet stream, and it's like, no, the jet stream's not really doing that. So
not on this one.
Not in that one. So what a great device. It's kind of like, yeah, we'll just kind of float it along, and we'll see what we can get. And then it just loitered for days, and it just kind of slowly moved over, and why they did what they did, I'm not going to question why it wasn't shot down sooner than later. I think it was, well, let's see what it's doing. Let's get some intel out of it and figure it out, because if it take it down over land, it's going to be smashed to pieces. If you take it down over water, there's a good chance you can, it'll be waterlogged, but there's a good chance you can get a little more intel out of it on that part. So
it's worth noting that our military knows way more than we'll ever know. If they would have thought this thing was a real big threat to us, they would have probably done something sooner. I think they probably knew more than we know today. Scotty, what do you think, man?
Also, it's like with it being a balloon, it's like it comes off, I guess initially as a little unassuming. It's like, what, it's a balloon? Maybe it's not as threatening initially when a fighter jet or some sort of spy airplane would be. It's like, got this balloon, and it kind of like makes you do a double take, and it's like, is that thing dangerous? What's going on with the balloon? It's got this little unassuming thing going on, which is it's kind of weird.
I'm kind of curious if a few of our fellow hams didn't get the idea of, and I don't know if this was a Mylar type balloon, was to, do a little balloon bounce. Instead of EME, let's do some balloon bounce and see what you can do. Bounce a 2 meter or 6 meter signal off this balloon and do a little bit of that.
Hey, screw
my elk antenna together.
Yeah. Think about the confidence you must have to build a balloon that size and weight. I'm sure it weighed who knows what. To just say, because imagine the repercussions, God forbid, if this thing would have got tangled up somehow over our country and blown down and came down and killed people, American citizens, right? Imagine the nerve of a country to put that much weight in the air thinking, send it off, boys, let it go. And, because that would have been a whole different thing. God forbid that would have happened. That we would have been in a real situation. And I think a nation, here we are. I feel like, guys, I'm hosting the overnight show in Topeka, Kansas right now, and nobody's listening to us, and I'm just having a blast. But you got to be ready to fight if you're sending a balloon of that weight and the potentiality that it would crash and kill American citizens on American. Imagine. I'm glad it didn't happen. We don't have to deal with that. Dave, W0TKX, he is in Colorado, and apparently he's the one who supplies a great deal of the gummies for the gummy loop. Dave, what's going on, you old hippie?
There he is.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry my hair is far too short.
It's his audio mostly. Nobody cares about your hair. They think I've got a full frock, a Jerry curl on my head, so...
Actually,
The nice
I
thing
wish I
about
would,
radio.
lose a little bit more off the top and I'd rock what you got going on, to be honest with you. It's not quite there yet. I cannot rock, the Captain Picard properly. Okay.
There's way too many
So-
words to break my balls. I think we're going to go back to Michael. Michael is just kidding. Go ahead, Dave. What's going on? Where are you on Bouvet and any topic you want to talk about?
Well, I've listened a little. There goes my
Your audio's
camera
good.
again.
Your audio's good though.
Audio's fine.
Oh, all right. Let me stop the camera, I guess. Give me a sec if I can find it. Yeah, I didn't see the proper numbers to use Zoom on my Mac, so I'm on the crappy camera on my old PC. So, and I've noticed it's acted up. So at least I had it up there as a spare, because as we
Well, it
all
sounds
know,
great.
this stuff is.
Yeah, you sound great.
the-
Go. I'm doing my Larry King for you. Topeka, Kansas. Go.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, so yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. One of the things that, I look at a lot of different things, and I'm really into shortwave listening and stuff. And Radio Reference was going nuts with the people on the East Coast listening to the traffic on like 300 megahertz and other stuff. And I actually heard some audio recordings of the operation with the aircraft that was on their way out to deal with the situation on the East Coast. People spotting it from, close to Scotty and all that. Pretty interesting stuff. The other thing about maneuverability is balloons, when you're going way up and down like that, if you just change elevation, you can steer them a lot because the winds change from one level to another. And I don't know, and we may never know, but it's very interesting. And well, I guess the other thing is that I'm toying with the idea. I have a small, silly little thing on Facebook for ham radio and a lot of cartoons and stuff like that, topical things. And I had to boot 3 people out because they were like your 160-meter gentlemen, I guess. And I interact with these people locally on the air, and I'm disappointed. These are people I've known for years. The trouble started happening way back in like 2008. I've been rag chewing with these guys when I wasn't, working in the morning, back when I was still working. And of course, I'm somewhat retired now, although I'm looking at getting back out to work. But no, just absolutely, I can't believe it. And Steve, your comment about your wife being a teacher and everything else. I mean, I've thought about coming out of retirement and, maybe being a STEM teacher or something, because I think I'd be a pretty good one. I've taught professionally, CAD CAM mostly, operating systems. I've worked as a teacher in local community colleges when I lived up in the mountains, teaching skiing full time. I was doing that part time, particularly in the summers, teaching basic PC technician certification stuff for the local community college up there. Plus, of course, teaching skiing for as long as I did. And so, but it's like, God, I don't even know if I want to get into that environment just because of how raucous it is. And it's not about the truth, So that's about it. And I appreciate you guys. And, I know I'm your resident Colorado weirdo. Let's see if it works again.
We need them
and
all.
I appreciate that. And all I've got to say about that is
we can
this
get.
right now.
It's a total of 6 listeners now, so we need you in there. Don't you ever change.
What? Here or everywhere?
It was kind of funny to hear that
Crap out
comment from
again,
my
I'm
wife.
sure, but I'm watching my performance monitor over here, and I'm watching it go up. This poor old PC. I didn't get the right numbers to log in with on my Mac, and we'll figure that out later. Don't worry about it.
All right, well, thank you,
because it's
guys.
got a much better system for this. It's got a better camera on it.
Well, thank you, Dave. Yeah, we don't need to
Yeah,
see
better
you.
light now.
Don in the chat, he said we don't need to see you. So they just want to hear. They just want to hear. But thank you, guys. Thank you so much. We do have some questions. Should we get to them, Steve, or should we
Yes.
run for cover?
Yeah, let's. we've been kind of Debbie Downers a little bit here. So
Yeah, well, it's good to let the people talk too. That's one of the things with the show. I just didn't want to talk at people, and it's so nice to be able to let them come in, and say what they need to say, and it's civil. That's the thing. You can come in and say what you need to say without being that guy. That's, the contradiction on 160, the whole thing about the gentleman's band, and I thought, hey, these guys are doing pretty good. And then the quarterback from the, it's like,
they go
what
off
the
into
hell?
left
What
field.
just happened? And you just actually epitomized what you were talking about other people for dumbing down the test. Like, what is that? Anyway, don't let me go back there. If you want to join us in the Zoom, we will let you in. Come in, mute it. The link is in the description. We have some questions that have come in. I don't know if we have any in the chat, but we'll take a look for those. Put a Q in front of them if you have a question. And let's go with this one here. How far should a tower, right up your alley, Steve. How far should a tower be from the base of the house?
At least the height of the tower.
Ooh, that's interesting. How come we see towers right there at the corner sometimes? That's not good.
If you can. If you can do it, to get it as far away from your house, if possible. Why? Towers fall down. They do come down. And the last thing you want it to, if it's going to come down and just fall into the yard and stuff like that, no big deal. This way it won't fall into the house and cause damage there. But if you can, just, get it. My tower, I have two up. So I have one that's right next to my shop here, and which is what normally everybody does, have their tower right next to their place. But it's a 40-foot tower, so if it comes down, it's going to take my shop out. If it goes one way and another way, it won't do anything. My main tower is 100 feet, more than 100 feet away, and it's an 80-footer. So I don't have to worry. If it comes down, then it won't hit the shop or anything like that. And so I have that luxury. But personally, get your tower, if you can, away from any structures, in case, because towers do come down. Your guy lines snap, always something happens. And so think about that. That's my rule of thumb.
That's interesting, because I've always, living out here in the country, I don't laugh, but I'm also like, ooh, that was not a good place to plant a tree. Like, you shouldn't plant a tree next to your house. It's never really a good idea. And I've seen more towers right up next to the house than I've seen out away. So is it a comfort level thing? I would think that you couldn't guy your antenna on, or you couldn't guy your tower on that side. Maybe they're trying to fasten it to the wall. I don't know, but is it a comfort level mostly?
They bracket it to the house, and depending on what kind of tower it is, it could be a freestanding tower, so it doesn't need any guy wires, and then get it close. And they're worried about, well, I don't want to have too long of a coax. I want to keep it close. The other issue is that they don't have the space to, set it away. Look at Scotty. He has this little plot, this little 10 by 10 square plot.
Sorry,
or
Scotty.
something.
I didn't know he was coming after you like that. That's kind of a dicky thing, Steve.
But he doesn't have that luxury.
Square roof.
Yeah, and so each and every one of us have our challenges and our unique situations, and but I look at it from, well, towers come down. They don't stay up forever. It just I've seen too many of them come down to the ground.
A good question. Really good question. I'd never thought about it. And the distance of the tower away, if you can. Okay, good. He would know, guys. He would know. Next question. Do I need to join a radio club to serve my community? Nice question.
I don't think so. It's if there's a group that's, say, like an auxiliary group, auxiliary communications group, that it might be put on by a 911 center. It might not be a club. But you can serve your community in many, many ways. You don't have to be part of a club. It's get creative. But
Each
I mean,
club has to
having a
have.
club,
They got to deal with like what is it? A memorandum of understanding? Is that what I'm thinking of, or
an MOU.
MOA? Yes, understand MOU. Sorry, I get crazy with the letters sometimes. But they have different agreements with different places. So I think like an Aries team would have a different memorandum of understanding with the Red Cross or the local shelters. And so the benefits, I think, of being in a club is they probably have those connections already in place. But I don't think. Go ahead, Scotty.
But just what you said. One of the advantages of being in a club is there's kind of that network kind of already established as far as serving the community for marathons and all sorts of things, getting involved with areas.
Well, you get people that you know and you work with, and you get to those folks, their voices, how they operate and things like you become a team. I mean, it's more advantage. You have a better advantage when it's a club or an organization of some kind, whether you call it a club or association or whatever. That helps. But I think you can still, as an individual, you can help out and serve your community. It just, now how can you do that as an individual will vary from place to place to place. But there's you can do many with numbers.
One thing I will say, don't self-deploy. Try to figure out who to talk to ahead of time. Connect yourself with whatever club, whatever agency. I don't think they would turn you away. They may not put you in play if they don't know your skill set, but don't self-deploy. We've seen that kind of happen in hurricanes and situations like that where people kind of go and it's considered going rogue. They don't know. You could actually just get in the way. So that's my piece of that.
Or get yourself killed.
Get yourself killed and not have any sort of checks and balances. It's important. These are important things. But it's nice that you want to serve.
Part of the problem, not the solution. And that's one of the big issues.
Hope that helps. All right, we got another question. If you have a question here in the chat, put a Q in front of it. If you're listening on the road anywhere on your commute, you can send them to me directly or through our social media. What are your favorite books featuring ham radio? This is an interesting question. You got anything? Most of us can't read proper, so next question. Just joking. I do have a book.
I don't know too many books that feature ham radio in it. Other than it was a book about ham radio. But
I tend to read more of the non-fictional sort of technical books. But my bathroom reading materials tend to, some folks read novels, and my bathroom materials tend to be more like service manuals,
like the Inquirer. You read the Inquirer and Big Bushes and Cooters. I get it. I know what you do. I'm on the Discord channel. You're a freak. We know. I have a book that I did dig into. This was given to me by a ham. This is old school, but I'm into stuff like this. Really, it's Fundamentals of Radio, and it's kind of a military type of war service. See that? For those preparing for war service, it's old school. Now, another one that is kind of based in nonfiction is called Thunderstruck. Thunderstruck deals with, and it's a bestseller, and it's based in ham radio. I've had to pull them off my shelves, and the folks that are here watching got to see my hind quarters. But I'm kind of into old antenna books. I'm into things like Scotty's talking about, where you can look and learn how to build things, that kind of stuff. But a piece of sort of fiction, but based on a true story, is Thunderstruck. And I haven't gotten deep enough into this one yet, but it's a New York Times bestseller, and it's been around for a while if you're into it. But other than that, I flipped through the magazines. I got the magazine here for February. I haven't even looked at it yet. I've got it here on my desk, still ready to go. But if you're here in the chat and you've got some book titles, drop them in there for our friends, and we'll share them next week. Hope that works out for you. You want one more? Two more? We can do one more? Two more?
Bring it on. Keep it on.
All right. And if you want to join in the old Zoomy Roomy, you can do that. Join us if you have a question. If you're here in the chat, put a Q in front of it. We'll try to handle, even if it's life stuff. We got to talk you off the ledge. I'm pretty sure we can do that too, if we need to. We really want to do that. But how can I find out about upcoming satellite passes? Scotty, you want to take a crack at this one?
Yeah, there's lots of different apps. There's some phone apps you can use that will help you track satellites. There's I'm drawing a blank. The organization that kind of keeps an eye on all the yes. So the AMSAT. That's exactly what I was saying. The AMSAT website. I have a application on my computer that I run to, and I can specify what satellites I want to track. And you can set a lot of these up to send you a little alert that, hey, this particular satellite that you have interest in will be acquirable in 15 minutes. And if you're get your antennas in position and want to try to track it that way, there's lots of resources for tracking satellites.
Dennis in our Zoom room, he says HRD has a great satellite tracker. Dave says calling W1XYZ Little Big Book, Jimmy Keene and the Radio Spies from 1939. I think I can't tell if he's lying to me. I never know. Never really know if that's a real thing, but we'll see. I think he's just pulling my chain. But yeah, a follow-up question to that. Have you been so engulfed in satellite operations? Because I know people get so deep into it. It's a layer of the ham radio onion that people get so excited about. Have you ever gotten so deep into it and that track comes, it starts to come over, you get the warning and you're jumping out of bed? Is that something you've done, Scotty? Or stayed up for?
That's something that I've accidentally done. I have stayed up late for satellite passes. In hopes of talking to someone aboard the International Space Station. And the time that I did, in fact, to talk to an astronaut, it was completely coincidental. I got to take a leak, and I just happened to know. It was like 5 a.m, and I walked by the shack, and I see the ISS is coming by in a few minutes, and I was like, before I go back to bed, I'll just take a shot in the dark. And that was the one where, welcome aboard the International Space Station. I was like, whoa.
That was the same night you pissed in the hamper, wasn't it?
Wing.
No, that was the hamper incident was another night.
I knew that was a thing.
Wing.
All right. Let's do one more. He's shot in the dark. That's the one you pissed in the hamper. We know all about it. One last question for this episode, unless somebody else has something they want to know. Is it frowned upon to have a call sign outside of my call district? Great question, by the way.
Not anymore. I mean, it's very common. It used to be a requirement that whatever call district you resided in, you had to have a call sign from that district, and that has changed over the years. And I'm kind of in a mixed bag on that one. There's times when it's like, oh, I'm going to work a W1. Okay, he's calling me, and I'm swinging my antenna to one land, and he's like, oh no, I'm down here in Tucson, Arizona. It's like, damn. So now I got to swing it the other way, and but you know what?
Antenna.
Swinging, just
swinging his bazooka.
Write my defense for this one. Monday's going to be pretty tricky.
But it comes down to, our call sign is our identity. It's who we are. And it's just it. And so, yeah, there are people, there'll be these old curmudgeons that these guys, they like to pick on and come up and bitch about anything and everything. And this is one of those things that they will complain about. And so there are people that frown upon it, but don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It's just go with the flow. And if you're a 1 and you're living in 7 land, good on you.
Go with the flow, like the time when Scotty pissed in the hamper. He took a shot in the dark. He got out of bed and
shot in the dark and worked the ISS.
It was a hell of a night.
It was a great night. A lot of cleanup in the morning, but he could
blue pill.
He could brag about it.
Totally worth it.
PLS says Heavens Above is a great phone app for tracking
Yes.
sats. So thank you for that. We will put that one on the list. Well, we gave them 90 good minutes, and I think you guys want to keep going. Speaking of little blue pills, our boy Steve's like, keep going.
He's swinging his antenna, man. He's ready to rock.
Shwing!
It's very phallic. As we get deeper into the show, 90 minutes is no promises. I think this is good, though. We don't have a net, obviously, to go and give you coverage of, but I do appreciate the folks who stopped by in our Zoom room tonight, this evening, to give us their commentary on what they were dealing with. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and discussion. We appreciate you for sure. I think that if we could find Bouvet on tonight, I would set up a stream and we would all come back and chase these mugs. But at this point, I don't know anybody's on the air unless Steve says let's go do it.
They're there. They're being spotted. They're working 30 meters CW, 17 meters FT8. Keep trying. They'll just, who knows, tomorrow could be another day and propagation could really pick up and things will go well. So, but keep plugging along. Don't let the haters bring you down. The haters will always hate. And there's a reil good chance we might not get these guys. We may not get them. So do your best. It's all you can do. And if you get them, great. But I think they've been asking, like, if you've worked them, kind of move aside, let somebody else get a chance. You don't have to get them on every band. If you worked them, then just step aside and let's give everybody the opportunity to work them. So if you work them on FT8, don't chase them on CW, but let someone else get in there.
Yeah, and try to keep your cool. That's the big rule. Keep your cool when you hear these ninnies doing their thing out there. You were going to say something, Scotty?
Oh yeah, I got my my Voice of America propagation prediction thing set up, and I have Bouvet set up as my DX from home. And right now, things are looking pretty good for 12, 15, 17, 20, 30, and 40 to that, or at least through the prediction anyway. So it's middle of the night there right now. So it's if they're running,
it's around this time that it was pretty good for the West Coast too.
Yeah, I might. I'll certainly be taking a peek on the bands this evening.
Well,
I'll be around.
Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. That way, and you click the notification bell. If we end a show like this and we happen to come back, you'll be notified. And that, I think we love to chase, and we can do a live stream of us chasing too. So stay tuned. Go ahead and do that, and that'll be great. Thank you to the friends who stopped by and contributed tonight on Zoom. We appreciate you. Good audio. We'll say good night to everybody there as well. We appreciate them. And of course, you, our listeners, and our friends who came by to watch us. We dropped a few curse words. I noticed when Steve said the shit, the numbers grew. So we're going to work in a couple good S-bombs.
That's two shits for you too, Christian. That's one for me. Oh, man.
Oh, we're going to have a meter. Let's make a diagram. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. Look after each other. And by all means, if you can, please try to stay above the noise. 7-3, guys. Good night, Steve. Good night,
7-3, Al.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.